So Chris here has a 3-story pedal board. Check this out. You got a 3-story pedal board.
I got three of them.
What do you need 3 stories for? Let's look at it.
Need is a relative word. So we'll start with the basement because that's kind of the main part. As we try not to...
Don't break it. I can
Yeah.
get... Yeah.
So, power clearly is important. I'm running, what is this? The Chalks stuff, Eventide.
This is just like the DC7, but why is it just a different brand? Or?
So it's some partnership they did with Eventide, and it was just a little bit cheaper than the black equivalent. So I saved a couple bucks by going with the white one, and then I got this because I needed more power.
Yep.
This isn't super clean underneath because I've made some changes since I first set it up. But I'm running dual Tonexes for amps. I don't remember which color is which, but one of them is the Worship Tutorials Bad Cat Stella capture, which is like Bad Cat's take on the Matchless Chieftain that they made for James Duke. And James Duke's probably one of my favorite players, so I was like, yeah, I like his tone, let's go for it. And then the other one is Jake Faber's Matchless Grand Canyon, which I don't remember what that's kind of a take on, but it's more of an American style amp. So I like doing the typical British amp and American amp combo thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into this in a little bit, but also underneath is this Tone City, I think is the brand, Derpel. It's a partnership they did with Danish Pete. If you're familiar with the Andertons YouTube channel, Danish Pete is also one of my favorite players to watch and listen. And it's like a $70, $80 overdrive, and it sounds really good.
You keep it always on, it looks like, or is it in the loop?
So it's in the loop. We'll
Okay,
get into
we'll
that,
get to that
in a second. But so technically it's always on because it's in a loop, but it's not always sending signal through. And then I guess you get to the main floor. And so that was the basement. So floor one.
Floor one. Now we're on the main floor.
So maybe let's do signal chain.
Sure.
So input. This is a Temple Audio or Temple something board Duo 17. I bought this to have a small rig, and it's gotten bigger. So that was kind of counterproductive. But I've got an input jack here on the board itself, and then there's a little patch bay that comes up, and it goes to this compressor. Also by Tone City. It was a pretty cheap but also effective and simple compressor just to give me a little more oomph and sustain that I was wanting to get. And then it goes directly into a third Tonex one, which is a capture of, I believe, a Benson preamp. And I've got it set to be, doesn't add much gain, but it adds a little bit of volume and a little bit more high end. Just to kind of get me out in front of the mix a little bit more. I'm sure I could even push the mids to get even more noticeable, but right now it's subtle and I like it. So then it comes out of this Tonex and it goes into the input of the Jet Pedals Unity 6, which is a MIDI controller and a looper. So I've got all my other overdrives running through one of the first 3 loops, and I use this to turn things on and off. So I've just, as it's labeled, I got stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then I can go back, compress and hold, and it turns it off. I've also got swells stuff. So then it comes out of the looper and it goes into volume pedal.
So what I love about what I just saw is that you had like 1, 2, and then when you hit that one, it turned the other loops off?
Yeah, so in the programming, so this is also touchscreen, which is pretty cool. And you can like just get really crazy with however you want to customize. And so I've got it so that for this one, it turns on an overdrive and it turns on another delay. But this one turns on in loop 3, I've got that Derpel, which is underneath. It just adds a little bit more gain, a little bit more volume for my stage 2, kind of like bigger choruses. And then when I go to this, it turns on the Nero fuzz, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it turns off the screen pedal and the Derpel.
Nice.
And then when I switch back to stage 1 or even stage 2, it turns off
The
stage
Nero.
3, which I guess lead is just like really big lead tones. So let me come into the hot tone, hot one. I don't know what they're called. But this is called the tuner press. And so it's my tuner and my volume pedal. And then I don't have it set up, but if I had like a TRS cable, I could push on this, and there's a color over here that goes blue,
Okay.
and it's then an expression pedal. So that's volume, that's expression,
that's
but
cool.
I don't have it set up for expression yet because I don't have a TRS cable that can get in
Right.
that tight spot. So then it goes out of my tuner, out of my volume pedal, into the hot tone, hot one, whatever, Ampero 2 Stomp, which I like to call kind of a more budget-friendly HX Stomp because
Okay.
it essentially does the same stuff.
How much is how much do these go for?
It's like 300, 350
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
So a lot cheaper than the HX Stomp. I think, I haven't done official scientific comparisons, but I think you can get a little bit more DSP out of this. It's
And it's
touchscreen.
touchscreen, yeah.
So you can do all kinds of stuff. There's I think you press and hold this button and it turns on a looper.
Nice.
And then somewhere in here, it's got a built-in drum machine as well. I don't remember how to get to it. Oh, there it is.
So it's something you use a lot.
Yeah, you know, all the time for practice, which in theory sounds really cool, but I don't use it as much. But then I mainly run this for, I've got a pitch effect, which is triggered by the Unity 6. Then I've got some chorus, some tremolo, some vibrato, and then a couple other fancy delays that get turned on when I hit the swells button.
Gotcha.
And then it comes out of here to my send junction box thing, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the Temple modules. It's got 1/4 inch out and XLR out. And then in the effects loop, I've got this Walrus Audio Meraki. It's a stereo analog delay. There's something fancy about it. I don't remember, but it sounds really cool. I've got a dotted eighth and an eighth running in series. I've got a little bit of modulation, like super subtle, but like this white light's cool as you tweak the modulation.
Yeah.
But that gets like a little nauseating, like seasickness kind of thing. And then if you turn it all the way off, it's just solid. So I like just a subtle kind of 11, 10 o'clock modulation. And then it runs into the Walrus D1, which can do stereo. It can do a dual delay, but I like the dual delay in the Meraki more. So this is just kind of a subtle dotted eighth. That's really cool for just like rhythm or kind of that dugga 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 kind
The what?
of the dugga 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 dugga
Yeah.
sound. And then it runs into the Jet Revelation reverb, which is probably one of my favorite reverbs to use. I've got a shimmer setting right now. Right now it's got like my subtle always on reverb. And then when I hit swells, it goes to this big super ambient reverb.
Now, do you always, this is a question because I have it and it's one of my favorite. Do you always keep it on shimmer and then just turn the shimmer down?
Yeah, I think I've got, if there is any shimmer right now, it's super subtle. And then when I turn on my big swells, that's when I have the control knob cranked. So it brings in all the high-end shimmery goodness.
Yeah, because the shimmer algorithm minus the shimmer, that reverb is still awesome.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to switch algorithms and get the cut.
Yeah.
That's what'll happen.
Yeah. So I've got it set between those. And then this is something new I've experimented with. I've got this, since I don't have a TRS to do expression with this,
Right.
I've got this Roland expression pedal patched into the Unity 6 to control the mix and the decay on the Revelation. So when I turn it up, it just affects the mix and the decay, which for like that one part in like King of Kings where it gets really washy in one of the verses, I was like, I want that, but I don't want to tweak my like super swelly ambient reverb. So I use the expression pedal to just kind of crank the mix and the decay, and then I can even get like in between my always on and my super washy reverb. That's awesome. And then, so this is kind of weird, and some people may criticize me for this, but I actually run the tone X's for my amps in the effects loop of this thing, the Stomp, because I use the headphone jack.
And you want to be able to use them both.
Because if not, I either...
You'd have to have something else to get the headphone.
And I didn't want to find like some other interface that I had to plug into whenever I wanted or needed to practice. So I run...
Very smart.
I did it a couple different ways before I got to this point. I ran them out of the effects loop and just ran out of the Stomp into the tone X's. Ended up finding a way to be able to hear, but it just required more equipment that I preferred. Yeah. So then I ran the tone X's into the effects loop, and I did not notice any kind of tonal difference. Nice. So I was like, sweet, this works. And that's what I really like about the Stomp. This Stomp, even the HX Stomp, is those headphone out options. I tried to get like super annoyingly creative with the headphone out option of the tone X's, but again, would have required buying more stuff that I didn't really care to buy, and it would have messed with how my output module worked. I don't think I talked about it, but I'm running an ODR1, Noble's ODR1 as kind of my stage 1 overdrive. And then when I combine the ODR and the Derpel for stage 2, if I really want to, I can press and hold, and loop 3 is just the Derpel. So if I just want the Derpel and not the ODR1, I can do that. But that's kind of my main...
Do you have anywhere set up the internal boost that this comes with? Have you played with that?
Yes, I used to have that set up. Why won't you do this now? Okay. I used to have that set up before I completely kind of redid my approach to gain staging. So I keep that in mind. I haven't utilized it much in my current setup, but in the past, when I first got the Unity 6, I was using it, and I really liked it because it's I don't remember the order, but it's like a pre or post loops boost, clean boost.
Yeah, clean boost. And you can adjust the...
Yeah, it's like 3, 5, 7, something crazy like that. And then for my fuzz, I've got the Cornerstone Nero. I've got it set up upside down because of the loop. I don't ever have to turn it on and off, and my cables are already that short. And I really like this because it's, as like the worship tutorials guys, and even I can't remember the guy's name, but the owner of Cornerstone is a praise and worship guy. He grew up playing in church, and he says he's always liked fuzz, but he's never like been able to properly utilize fuzz without throwing in like an overdrive in the mix with it as well. And so the cool thing is this comp button, essentially there's a Gladio overdrive incorporated into this. And so the comp kind of, from what I remember, tweaks how much of the Gladio is incorporated. So like if you turn it all the way up, it kind of cleans up the fuzziness. If you turn it all the way off, it can get really wild and gnarly. So I kind of put it somewhere in this range, just depending on what I'm feeling and what guitars I'm using.
That's awesome.
And then you've got the different voicing options. I haven't experimented much with it, so I just leave the voicing knob here, and it sounds good for what I like to use it for. And then I think the only other thing is back on this side. I've got these USB-C modules that help me connect to the tone X's. If I need to do any kind of updating, I don't have to flip my board upside down. And hopefully with this new editor that Tone X is going to be releasing, that'll make tweaking things a lot easier. But right now I've got my amp set to where I really like them. So right now I've kind of just set them and forget them kind of thing. They're on like those special hold features so that being under the board, if it gets bumped, the knobs don't adjust any.
Oh, that's right. It's like a safety thing.
Yeah, I don't remember what they officially call it, but that's... So it just kind of stays and turns on and sounds good.
Well, should we hear some sounds?
Yeah, we can hear some sounds.
Hey, Editing Jimmy here. Thank you so much, Chris, for giving us a tour. When he started playing the guitar, we thought it was being recorded, but it wasn't. But what Chris did do is he sent me some audio samples so you can actually still hear what this board sounds like. So just know that this beautiful B-roll that I got and all the footage of the pedal board and him playing will not line up because it's not the same. But at least we can hear what it sounds like. Thanks, Chris. Hope you're enjoying the video. Give it a like.
Thank